Nigeria's election year has come and gone, but will remain a watershed in the country's political history. The presidential election will be remembered as perhaps the most keenly contested in the country's recent history. Considering the vote difference among the top three parties, the All Progressives Congress APC, the People's Democratic Party PDP, and the Labour Party LP. The All Progressives Congress retained power at the centre, with the emergence of Senator Bola Tinubu as winner of the presidential election. But his victory was challenged majorly by the PDP and the Labour Party, all the way to the Supreme Court, which affirmed the election of Bola Tinubu.
To avert any form of confusion,
the Independent National Electoral Commission was largely criticized for the failure of the IRF portal, specifically for the presidential election. Chairman of the Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, admitted that the Commission experienced glitches in transmitting results through the IRF during the presidential election.
While voter accreditation using the bimodal voter accreditation system was very successful, the uploading of results to the INEC result viewing portal, the IREV, especially for the presidential election, encountered a glitch as explained in our statement on the 26th of February 2023.
The European Union Election Observation Mission in June released a report which described the elections as ensuring real-time publication and access to election results as a product of a poorly done desk job that relied heavily on few persons and attempting to ridicule the Nigerian electoral system and the electoral umpire. Following the governorship elections, attentions have also turned to the courts. Just like the presidential election, the Court of Appeal has sacked Governors Caleb Muftwang of Plateau State and Abba Yusuf of Kanu State, while declaring the Zamfara state election inconclusive and ordering INEC to hold new elections in 2 local governments. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja also reserved judgment on the appeal by Governor Abdullahi Sule after a tribunal ruling nullified his re-election. Meanwhile, Nigerian politics experienced a new twist as the Labour Party, with its new leader Mr. Peter Obi, who was also the presidential candidate of the party, pulled some surprises across the country, winning the governorship election in Abia State and unseating many lawmakers at the federal and state levels.
What legacy would you say INEC, is leaving Nigerians, from this general elections and, off-cycle elections we had in 2023?
I think I've said this even from 2019. INEC cannot deliver anything now because it has legitimacy crisis. The first thing that should have been done is for Professor Mahmood Yakubu to go. I mean, in climes where honor means anything, even if you feel that you've done your best, to the extent that international and local observers have condemned, heavily criticized the conduct of the election, the best thing you should do is to step aside. His life doesn't need to depend on it. You step aside for the sake of the integrity of that institution. And for as long as it remains, I don't think anybody will believe that they will get anything from INEC. And it was also a mistake on the part of the government when they said, I can understand why they said it, that INEC has conducted the best election. I think they were trying to say it in the context of trying to legitimize their declaration as president-elect. But the consequence is that it doesn't give you room to say we are going to embark on further electoral reform, because you said they did a perfect job.
This was also partly responsible for the large turnover of lawmakers at the National Assembly. That is almost 70% of new senators and members of the House of Representatives. The build-up to the National Assembly leadership elections was rather interesting. It appeared as though a repeat of 2015 would happen when some members of the ruling party insisted on contesting for leadership positions, despite the stance already taken by the party to field Senators Godswill Akpabio and Jibrin Barau for Senate President and Deputy, and Honorables Abbas Tajuddin and Benjamin Kalu as Speaker and Deputy. All 4 candidates eventually emerged victorious on election day.
Of various jurisdictions.
The judiciary also found itself in the eyes of the storm, especially from the statement from retired Justice Mohammed Datijo, which further prompted calls for justice reforms.
The judiciary must be uniquely above board. Appointments should not be polluted by political, selfish, and sectional interests. The place of merit, it must be eyes, cannot be overemphasized.
If we keep the trajectory that we're on right now, there will be a citizens' revolt against the judiciary. And when that happens, it would have to be a radical sweep. But we can't keep on the way we are going, where citizens are losing confidence in the judiciary. In those days, if someone offended you, you would say, I will go to court. These days, if somebody offends you, he says to you, go to court. And you know what that means. It means that he doesn't think that the courts would give you justice.
Rivers State is currently experiencing a political crisis, which many fear could spiral out of control if not properly managed. Governor Simlayem Fubara is at loggerheads with former governor and FCT minister Nyesom Wike. The crisis has led to the burning and eventual demolition of the State Assembly buildings, series of protests, and defection of 26 state lawmakers to the APC from the PDP. President Bola Tinubu had to intervene in the rift between both men. The president also interceded in the political crisis in Ondo State, prompting the transfer of power to the deputy governor, after Governor Rotimi Akeredolu had been unable to perform his duties as governor for several months due to an undisclosed illness. President Bola Tinubu's bloated cabinet was not overlooked, as many criticized his decision to increase the number of ministers to a record 48, despite the country's economic woes and calls for a cut in the cost of governance. The presidency also came under heavy criticism for attending the COP28 in Dubai with 1,411 delegates, even though the government had explained that it only sponsored 422 of the number. To wrap up the election year, the Independent National Electoral Commission on the 11th of November successfully conducted off-cycle elections in Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa states, and is gearing up for the Edo and Ondo elections in 2024. This was a litmus test for the Commission to see what improvements will be made to the general elections.
It is possible, it's important to amend the Electoral Act on one hand to make sure that procurement is taken away from INEC so that they can focus on technical job. We'll have minting and printing, or we put it in the hands of sort of an independent committee that can look at it. And this is important because as long as there is struggle to manage the billions of funds being allocated to INEC in terms of printing, beaver procuring, beavers printing, ballot papers and what have you, we will continue to have this sort of issues. If next year off-cycle election is going to work, INEC has to start confidence building that is practical and pragmatic from this year, so that the voter register there, we have to get it right and clean it up, ensure that people are able to get their voters card on time.
Nigerians look towards an improved electoral system in 2024 as the National Assembly commences amendments to the Electoral Act, even though there are concerns about the credibility of the Electoral Commission following the appointment and confirmation of some resident electoral commissioners affiliated to political parties.
I think what is going to happen is that there must be, and we will just have to amend that Electoral Act and remove the human element from it. Because all that happened was simple. In the presidential elections, somebody switched off the presidential portal. And that completely spoiled everything about the presidential elections. In the subsequent gubernatorial elections, people literally seized the ballot papers and the beavers and the final result sheets and uploaded whatever they wanted on it, which means that human element gap is what we need to clear.
Senator Baribe,
that's all we have to do about
if I may come in here, you said something there that's quite significant. You said someone switched up the presidential portal. Do you have evidence of this? How did you know that?
INEC itself said they had a glitch. What glitch? On the same time, the same day, the same moment that the results for the senatorial and House of Rep results were also uploaded. There was no glitch on that one. So when somebody tells you that there was a glitch on the presidential portal, how could you believe such thing? They were just being very economical with the truth.
Well, you know, this matter of removing the human element in the...
Like I said, the human element, which means something happened there. It was done deliberately. If there was a glitch, it should have happened in the senatorial and the House of Rep elections, which was taking place at the same time. So when two things are happening at the same time and all that, if something looks like a dog, quacks like a dog, what do you call it? It's a dog.
Senator Baribe, if I may come in, and this is because we want to look towards 2024, because one would say that, you know, the matter has been in courts, the Supreme Court has made the decision on it, and we've moved away from that presidential election. So there is the question of the Electoral Act now. And as a senator, do you think that it still needs tinkering? And this is to represent properly what you think are the aspirations of Nigerians when it comes to a proper, credible, free, fair general election?
My view is simple. It's not the act. It is the operators of the system that are the people. So it does not matter how much we tinker with it. So long as somebody is prepared to do the wrong thing, they will do it. And so it has to do with the orientation of the person. And that's why I said, if we can remove the human element, if we can now use technology, if we can now come to the point where I can use my phone and get a code and vote, and nobody touches it, and that vote is tallied somewhere, then we won't have all these problems anymore. But so long as there's somebody who is going to stay there to decide whether it's going to go in or not, that person can be compromised, and that will mean that we cannot have this. And then every time we will now say, okay, tinker with the system. We did a lot in the 2023 Act. We did everything. We made sure that we could use technology to get us to the point where we are. We never knew that somebody could tamper with the INEC system, as it were.
Okay, would we be looking at going fully electronic? Because to take out the human element will mean going completely electronic, both for voting and transmission of the results.
Precisely. That's exactly what I mean. Once it's completely electronic, there's no way again anyone can manipulate it. That's all.